Psychology Explained Video 2 by Lauren Howard. Hallucinogens. Hallucinogens refer to a category of psychoactive drug. Psychoactive drugs are chemical substances that alter perceptions and moods. A hallucinogen is a psychedelic, aka mind-manifesting drug that distorts perceptions and evokes sensory images in the absence of sensory input. Like all other categories of psychoactive drugs, hallucinogens have the ability to be abused. Although these substances have effects that would be perceived as pleasurable, it is also very important to note that all of these substances have negative effects either long-term, short-term, or both. Therefore, I am in no way promoting the use of these substances as psychological or physical harm could occur. On to the actual hallucinations. The same hallucinations that would occur owing to lack of oxygen or sensory deprivation occur during hallucinogen usage. Starting with phase 1, geometric forms like lattices, cobwebs, spirals, or kaleidoscope-like images. Second, phase 2, you will likely see more meaningful images. They can be superimposed on tunnels, or they can maybe replays of past emotional experiences. In phase 3, or the peak of the hallucinations, individuals often feel like they've separated from their body, causing their sense of self to disappear and subsequently their connection between the individual and the tangible world around them. This effect is similar to that of a near-death experience, which does in fact produce an altered state of consciousness. Although there is a great number of hallucinogenic drugs circulating in the world right now, we are going to concentrate on 7: cannabis or marijuana, LSD, MDMA, psilocybin, PCP, mescaline in the form of peyote, and DMT in the form of ayahuasca. Hallucinogens can be divided into 2 categories: classic hallucinogens and dissociative drugs. Both can produce hallucinations, but dissociative hallucinogens also produce disconnection from the body and environment throughout the entire hallucination, and a general loss of control. Of the substances we're examining, LSD, psilocybin, peyote, DMT, and sometimes cannabis are considered classic hallucinogens, leaving PCP, which is a dissociative hallucinogen, and MDMA, which falls into neither category, owing to the mildness of its hallucinogenic effects. First is cannabis. Its active ingredient is THC, which is short for delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol. This is what produces the high associated with the drug. The 2 modes of delivery of this drug are inhalation by means of smoking or vaporization, which reaches the brain in about 7 seconds, and ingestion in food products or concentrates, which travels much slower, and the rate of metabolism affects the rate of transmission to the brain, thus making it unpredictable. Cannabis is a mild hallucinogen because it amplifies sensitivity to colors, sounds, tastes, and smells. Additionally, it distorts the perception of the passage of time. This substance also has the ability to relax an individual and produce what's commonly referred to as a euphoric high. On the other side of the coin, however, we have the negative effects of cannabis, which in the long term consist of impaired learning and memory, chronic bronchitis, psychosis, suicidal thoughts, and an overall increased risk of psychological disorders. And during use, heart rate elevation, individuals' motor coordination, and perceptual skills are negatively impacted. Marijuana has the ability to amplify feelings that one is already feeling. Thus, if one consumes THC by any means while in a depressed state, the compound will likely just amplify those feelings of depression. However, an individual cannot overdose on marijuana alone. Marijuana also has medicinal and religious uses, in addition to it being used recreationally. In 2017, the U.S. National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Math determined that marijuana can alleviate chronic pain and chemotherapy-related nausea. Individuals who belong to the religious movement Rastafari believe that marijuana use is biblically called for with reference to the holy herb and its ability to induce a meditative state that brings humans closer to the divine. Next is LSD. LSD stands for D-lysergic acid diethylamide, which is the chemical compound in the drug that creates the classic hallucinogenic high. Discovered by accident by chemist Albert Hofmann, LSD has come to be one of the most well-known hallucinogens in the world. The most common mode of delivery is ingestion or dissolution in the mouth, but it can be snorted, injected, or smoked. By the most common means of dissolution, it takes about 30 minutes for the high to begin and endures for about 8 to 12 hours. Its pleasurable effects are characterized as a visual trip and contain many of the images I spoke about earlier with the 3 phases: geometric forms, meaningful images, and sometimes the feeling of the disconnect with the self. Conversely, some of the negative effects of LSD include risk of panic, elevated or irregular heart rate, nausea, confusion, headaches, and vomiting. As the high of LSD fades away, which is commonly known as coming down, individuals can experience insomnia, fatigue, muscle and body aches, and symptoms of depression. LSD can trigger or worsen psychological disorders like schizophrenia, psychosis, and anxiety. However, research is being done for therapeutic use of LSD, and the drug has shown promise in low doses for treating psychological disorders, but LSD still is mainly used recreationally. Moving on to MDMA. The most commonly used names for the drug are ecstasy and Molly. MDMA is actually the active ingredient in ecstasy. It is pronounced 3,4-methylene dioxymethamphetamine. The main mode of delivery of this drug is swallowing it in pill form. MDMA is a mild hallucinogen that also has stimulant properties. The main pleasurable effects of this drug are decreased inhibitions, higher proclivity for physical intimacy, and emotional elevation. On the other side of the coin, we have the negative effects of MDMA, which are severe dehydration, overheating, a depressed mood, and impaired cognitive and immune functioning. Additionally, people can overdose from this drug. The next drug we'll be examining is magic mushrooms, or shrooms. Its active ingredient is psilocybin, which produces the high associated with the drug. Psilocybin mushrooms are of the naturally occurring classic family of hallucinogens. The two modes of delivery of this drug are ingestion, which take about 30 minutes to take effect, or drinking a liquid in which the drug was steeped or brewed, which takes about 5 to 10 minutes to take effect. Some of the pleasurable effects include a euphoric high, a sense of well-being, and hallucinations. On the other side, we have the negative effects of psilocybin, which consist of exhaustion, depression, anxiety, paranoia, panic and fear, agitation, muscle weakness, vomiting, diarrhea, psychosis, seizures, and coma. Like with LSD, most of these negative symptoms are either associated with a bad trip or the process of coming down after the, in this case, 4 to 6 hour high. It is very unlikely that an individual overdoses in a life-threatening way on magic mushrooms. On to PCP, or more formally known as phencyclidine. It is the only dissociative hallucinogen that we'll be examining today. The synthetic compound's name, PCP, doubles as the abbreviation for the chemical compound and the name of the drug. The drug can be delivered by means of any one of these four modes: intravenously, through inhalation via smoke or vapor, intranasally through snorting, or by ingestion in the form of pills. A PCP high lasts around 4 to 6 hours, and owing to the many methods of consumption, we will not be delving into how fast these chemicals take effect. Pleasurable effects of PCP include visual and auditory hallucinations, and a brief disconnection from reality and the tangible self. The negative effects of PCP include loss of coordination in addition to a sense of strength and invulnerability, slurred speech, numbness of the extremities, shallow respiration, profuse sweating, a rise in blood pressure, rapid and involuntary eye movements, an exaggerated gait, acute anxiety, paranoia, violent hostility, and a psychosis indistinguishable from schizophrenia. For our second to last drug, we have peyote. Peyote's active ingredient is mescaline, which is what produces the high. There are several ways in which one can ingest mescaline. First, by eating the dried crowns of the peyote cactus plant, by steeping the cactus to make tea, or by swallowing some form of the plant or just mescaline in the form of capsules. Mescaline produces an approximately 12-hour hallucination, in which the hallucinations, which are the only pleasurable effects, are very similar to those of LSD or psilocybin. On the other hand, we have the negative effects of mescaline: elevated heart rate, numbness, increased blood pressure, fever, chills, muscle weakness, nausea, headaches, and vomiting. While not impossible, an overdose on peyote resulting in death is very unlikely. Peyote also has religious uses, in addition to it being used recreationally. Native Americans, at least over 40 tribes in North America, still use peyote in their religious ceremonies. Many tribes see peyote as a sacred plant and utilize it for religious ceremonies or sacrament. This hallucinogen is so integral to their culture that the DEA, which has peyote as a Schedule I narcotic, exempted the Native American Church from this scheduling. For our last compound, we have DMT. There is a plant referred to as ayahuasca in which the active ingredient is DMT, short for N,N-dimethyltryptamine, which produces an intense and vivid high that has become associated with the plant and the chemical compound itself. The most popular way of ingesting DMT is drinking it in a steeped liquid. DMT produces an approximately 4 to 6 hour hallucination. The pleasurable effects include hallucinations and feelings of euphoria, connection, and unity. Now for the negative effects of DMT: elevated heart rate, increased blood pressure, increased body temperature, anxiety, nausea, headaches, and vomiting. DMT also has religious uses. in the form of ayahuasca, and it is seldom used recreationally owing to the sheer intensity of the hallucinations and the experiences with that drug. Ayahuasca has been used for hundreds of years by Native Americans in the countries of Peru, Brazil, Colombia, and Ecuador as part of religious rituals and even for therapeutic purposes. And that's a little bit on hallucinogens. As more synthetic hallucinogens are being made and natural hallucinogens being discovered, we'll never be able to cover the entire comprehensive list in a short period of time. But I hope that you enjoyed this video.